Exactly 48 hours ago, something happened that was so severe, so astonishing, that heaven itself paused to witness it, not to interfere, not to rescue you, not to steer the outcome, to watch, because what unfolded around you was not supposed to happen in any timeline the spiritual realm had mapped, not in any pattern the dark realm had calculated, not even in the quiet expectations of the Most High. And yet it happened anyway. The enemy knelt. And no, I'm not dressing that up with poetry. I'm not tonguing you pretty words to make you feel important. I'm describing a real spiritual event, in the dimension that overlaps this physical reality, in the place where intention carries weight and choices carve paths. The ruler of darkness dropped to his knees. Witnesses saw it. His own commanders saw it. And the archangels arrived to observe it with their own eyes. He bowed before you. He knelt before you. Do you understand how impossible that is? In 6,000 years of recorded spiritual history, the devil has never knelt before anyone. Miracle-working prophets. Not before saints who bled love into a cruel world. Not before warriors who shattered legions with faith. Never. His entire rebellion began with a refusal to bow before humanity when God commanded honor toward God's creation. He chose exile rather than humility. He chose the kingdom of shadow rather than the service of light. He would rather reign in ruin than bend in reverence. That is how deep this refusal runs. It isn't simply pride. It's embedded into his identity, like code written into the foundation of his consciousness. Submission was never an option for him. And yet, 48 hours ago, he broke. Not because God forced him down. Not because Michael raised a sword over him. Not because heaven threatened him into compliance. He knelt because he recognized something he could not defeat. He knelt because, for the first time in millennia, he encountered a human soul whose center could not be purchased, corrupted, or even properly understood. A consciousness he couldn't manipulate because it refused to negotiate with darkness in any form. You were not dealing with a random battle. You were being measured. Before we go further, subscribe to this channel right now and hit that notification bell. Because what I'm about to reveal about why you became the first soul in 6,000 years to force the devil into that position of absolute surrender is going to completely shatter your understanding of who you really are. Stay until the very end, because I'm going to show you the exact sequence of decisions you made that the forces of darkness considered literally impossible. Why those choices activated celestial protocols that not even the archangels expected to witness, and what your real identity is that you just confirmed beyond any doubt. Write 777 in the comments right now if you feel something changed drastically in your life in recent days. And you're ready to discover why even the forces of darkness had to publicly recognize your supremacy. The devil doesn't kneel. It's not just pride. It's fundamental programming in his consciousness. It's the core of his entire identity. When Lucifer was still in heaven, God created humanity and commanded all celestial beings to honor this new creation. And Lucifer looked at humans, fragile, mortal, limited, and said one word: no. Not because he hated humans, but because bowing before something he considered inferior would violate everything he believed about power and hierarchy. God gave him one chance: kneel before my creation or leave. And Lucifer chose exile. He took 1/3 of the angelic host with him. He created his own kingdom in the dimensions of darkness. He built an empire of suffering and corruption, all because he refused to bend the knee. For 6,000 years, that refusal defined him through every spiritual war, through every temptation, through every battle with celestial forces. He would rather lose than submit. And he did lose. Many times the archangels defeated him repeatedly. Saints resisted his temptations. Prophets exposed his schemes. But he never knelt. Even in defeat, he would retreat with his head held high, already planning the next attack. Submission was not in his vocabulary until 48 hours ago. Until you. What you need to understand is that hell has been watching you for weeks, not casually, intensely. There's a monitoring system in the dark dimensions specifically designed to track human souls who demonstrate certain problematic characteristics that threaten the operations of darkness. 3 weeks ago, you triggered that system. You remember the night. You do. It might have been a Friday around 10 when the world was quiet and the room felt too small to hold your thoughts. Maybe you were staring into the dark, maybe pacing, maybe sitting with your head in your hands. Feeling that sick twist in your stomach that comes when life puts you in a corner and offers you 2 doors, neither of them clean. One door looked easy, not necessarily illegal, not obviously evil, just off, misaligned. A shortcut that would fix the immediate problem, ease the pressure, stop the bleeding, and give you what you needed right then. The other door looked like suffering, slow progress, humiliation, uncertainty, a longer road with no guarantee of comfort, but it protected something inside you that you refused to sell, even if selling it would have brought relief. You fought with yourself for hours. Your mind screamed that you were being foolish, that nobody would know, that you deserved a break. That survival comes first, that you could make it right later. You ran the numbers. You played out the consequences. You pictured both outcomes 1,000 times. And in the end, you chose the harder road. Not because it was convenient, because it was true. You chose integrity over relief. You chose the long road over the shortcut. You chose to keep your soul intact even if your life stayed difficult. You thought it was private. You thought it was just you. But it wasn't. The infernal system labeled that choice an anomaly. A high-level integrity anomaly. The kind that tells the dark realm, this person's moral core runs deeper than the instinct to self-protect. That category is rare. Extremely rare. Only a handful of living people fit it at any given time. It means the enemy cannot rely on hunger, desperation, loneliness, or fear to make you betray yourself. It means the usual leverage points don't work. And when the dark realm sees that, it doesn't ignore it. It escalates. So they tested you. 5 days later, something appeared. An opportunity that looked almost custom-made. It arrived at the perfect moment. It solved multiple problems at once. It felt like an answer. Maybe it was money. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was recognition, status, access, power, a door you'd been praying would open. It came with ease. The person offering it made it simple. They smoothed the path, removed friction, practically insisted. All you had to do was agree, and the cost was small. At least on the surface. A minor compromise. A tiny bend in your principles. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would make headlines. The kind of adjustment most people would call being realistic. The kind of thing people do every day without even feeling it. The type of compromise that keeps the world running exactly the way darkness prefers. You stood there, looking at it. You considered what you'd gain. You could feel the relief waiting for you if you said yes. You even caught yourself trying to justify it. It's not that serious. Everyone does it. I've earned this. I've suffered enough. And then the moment came. The moment you could have taken it. And something inside you refused. Not an anxious thought. Not a fear of being caught. Not a guilt spiral. Something deeper than logic rose up and said, no. Your soul rejected it before your mind could finish negotiating. You walked away. You declined. You let the perfect solution leave your hands because it required you to shrink your own truth. That moment hit the dark realm like an alarm. Because there is a model the enemy has used for ages, a pattern of human compromise that has fed hell for generations. Offer relief at the right time, price it low, wrap it in rational excuses, and most people will accept. The dark realm offered you what you needed when you needed it, asked for almost nothing, and you still refused. That breaks the model. That is not supposed to happen. So the enemy gathered his court, the rulers of corruption, the princes of appetite, the masters of pride and resentment and greed, the strategists of temptation and distraction, were summoned to analyze you. They reviewed the sequence, your suffering, your need, your opportunity, your refusal, and one by one, they admitted something they hate admitting. Their tools weren't working. Prosperity couldn't buy you. Pressure couldn't squeeze you. Gratification couldn't seduce you. Fear couldn't steer you. Your hunger didn't overrule your values. Your loneliness didn't rewrite your standards. Your desperation didn't erase your conscience. And then you did something even more dangerous. 7 days ago, you had a moment where revenge would have been easy, justified, and celebrated. Someone who wounded you was suddenly exposed. Vulnerable. You had leverage. Maybe information. Maybe timing. Maybe a chance that would never return. And the truth is, if you had used it, people would have called it justice. They would have said, finally, they deserved it. You could have made them feel what you felt. You could have balanced the scales. You could have punished them without losing social approval, and you didn't. Not because you were scared. Not because you were weak. Not because you suddenly forgot the pain. You let it pass because there is something in you that refuses to build your life out of vengeance, even when vengeance would be understood. You didn't need to forgive them to refuse to become them. You chose peace over payback. You chose your own inner cleanliness over the satisfaction of watching them fall. To the forces of darkness, that was terrifying. Because hell loves when people are hurt. Not because it enjoys sadness as an emotion, but because hurt people are easier to program. Wounded souls become bitter. Bitter souls become harsh. Harsh souls become destructive. And then the wounded become the ones wounding others. Pain multiplies pain. It's a self-feeding machine. It's one of hell's most reliable engines. Turn victims into perpetrators, and the cycle sustains itself forever. But you broke the cycle. When a person who has every reason to retaliate chooses restraint, the machine stutters. When someone refuses to pass their pain forward, the darkness loses momentum. When someone preserves their integrity in a moment designed to recruit them into cruelty, hell loses a soldier it expected to gain. And the most frightening part is this: you weren't just resisting evil, you were healing. You weren't just saying no to corruption, you were refusing to continue the lineage of suffering. Your life was becoming a quiet rebellion against the logic of hell. That's when the panic spread. Another gathering, larger, heavier. Not a few commanders, but an entire court of shadow. Thousands summoned to witness the report. And what they found made the room go still. They discovered 3 realities in you that they consider nearly impossible to exist together in one human soul. First, you can endure. Real endurance. Not the fake kind where people pretend they're fine. The kind where your life can be pressed and you do not snap. Second, you cannot be bought. There is no price high enough to make you betray your core. Convenience, comfort, status, escape, praise, even love, even survival, none of it overrides what you know is right. Third, you remain compassionate, not naive, not weak. Compassionate with strength, even after wounds, even after disappointment, even after betrayal. You can carry pain and still choose not to become poison. Darkness hates this combination because it usually doesn't happen. Strength often hardens. Principles often shatter under prolonged suffering. Compassion often collapses when life gets brutal. But in you, these qualities reinforce each other. Your suffering doesn't make you cruel. It makes you clearer. Your principles don't make you fragile. They make you steady. Your compassion doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous to evil. So the enemy tried something he almost never tries. He sought direct contact. Not through circumstances, not through other people, not through subtle manipulation, hidden in distractions. Direct. A message placed into your mind with an unfamiliar weight. A thought that felt oddly polished, perfectly timed, promising relief if you would agree to one small thing that violated your essence. You remember it? The sudden solution that appeared out of nowhere. The reasoning that sounded airtight. The offer that seemed like it could end the struggle in a single decision. That was not you. That was the devil speaking to you as if you were an equal. Not with insults. Not with obvious evil. With respect. With a proposal. Something like, "You have strength. You have integrity I can't manufacture. Work with me. I'll make sure you never have to choose between your values and your prosperity again. I'll give you power, influence, the ability to shape outcomes. You can change the world the way you believe it should be changed. All I ask is that you accept that sometimes darkness is necessary to enforce order. Let me handle the dirty work while you keep your hands clean." It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? That's the point. Darkness rarely shows up wearing horns. It shows up wearing logic. It shows up offering partnership. It shows up promising that you can keep your goodness while outsourcing your compromises. It offers you a way to win without paying the internal price of becoming a different person. And here's what shocked the unseen worlds. You rejected it instantly. You didn't need to think it through. You didn't need to debate. Your soul refused before your mind could even finish reading the offer. That is not normal. Most people wrestle. Most people bargain. Most people entertain the thought long enough for it to plant roots. But in you, the rejection rose up like a reflex, as if your moral compass is embedded so deep that it responds faster than conscious analysis. The devil expected negotiation. Instead, he hit a wall of being. And in that moment, he realized he misjudged you. He wasn't facing a soul that could be persuaded. He was facing a consciousness whose values are built into its structure, not painted on the surface. He wasn't dealing with a person who tries to be good. He was dealing with a nature that does not bend. That forced him into a decision. He could keep attacking you, risking repeated failure, and each failure would expose his limitations to his own hierarchy. Or he could do something that preserved his authority in the only way hell recognizes. By publicly acknowledging a force he cannot conquer. There is a protocol in spiritual dimensions for when a lesser force collides with a greater one. In the light, respect looks like reverence. In the dark, respect looks like submission. So, he knelt. Not out of love, not out of worship, out of recognition. Because even hell must obey reality. And the reality was this. He had encountered a human soul that had become forbidden territory, a soul that cannot be corrupted, cannot be recruited, cannot be turned into a weapon against itself. The act sent shockwaves through realms you cannot see. When the commander of darkness kneels before a human, it is an official declaration. This soul operates outside the normal categories of control. He conceded you are beyond his reach, and that is the moment heaven stepped closer. God does not interrupt every battle. Souls are strengthened through choice. Growth requires freedom. But there are events so rare, so significant that they warrant direct witnessing. When the devil made that move, The archangels appeared. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. Not to fight, but to observe. To mark what had happened. To confirm what kind of soul could produce such an outcome without any visible miracle, without any grand display, without any public applause, simply through the purity of decisions made in the dark. And then God spoke a decree that was brief, simple, and irreversible. Prove essence. Activate. 3 words. And your destiny shifted. Because what you just confirmed is not merely a strong personality. It is not just trauma turned into resilience. It is not only character built by hardship. There is something older in you. Something carried. Before you were born into this life, you were not an ordinary consciousness wandering aimlessly into human experience. You were part of a higher order of service. A specialist, not in violence, but in integrity. The kind of mission where strength means holding the line inside yourself while darkness throws everything at you. Operations where you step near corruption without absorbing it. Where you enter chaos without becoming chaotic. Where you rescue without needing applause. Where one compromise collapses the entire assignment. You were known in those higher ranks as incorruptible. But there came a question you could not answer from within the safety of power. Can integrity survive forgetfulness? Can the same soul remain pure when it no longer remembers where it came from? When it has no certainty, no wings, no clear voice in the sky, no protected environment, no supernatural advantage? Can it remain true while experiencing real human fear, real loneliness, real pressure, real need? So, you volunteered. You accepted the hardest test. To enter the human plane under the veil of forgetting. To live inside limitation. To feel the weight of time and uncertainty. And to see whether your essence would remain intact when everything external was stripped away. You weren't sent here to learn how to be good. You were sent here to prove what you already are, without remembering, and you passed. You chose integrity when nobody would have blamed you for compromise. You chose principles while you were tired. You chose restraint while you were hurt. You chose compassion while vengeance was available. You held the line without an audience, without a halo, without a guarantee of reward. That isn't a habit. That is nature. That is your core revealing itself through temporary form. Now, because the test has been confirmed, restoration begins. This is why lately you may have felt strange flashes, dreams that feel like memories, a sense of knowing without having learned, moments where you walk into a situation and your awareness is sharper than it should be, insights arriving whole, not pieced together. It's not fantasy, it's fragments returning, not all at once. Not as a dramatic movie scene, but gradually, like a sunrise. The decree to activate does not mean you become a superhero. It means the limitations that kept you fully immersed in ordinary human experience begin to lift, step by step, in proportion to what you can carry without ego. The support will also shift. You may start noticing problems resolving in ways that feel too perfectly timed. Doors opening at the moment you were about to run out of options. Resources arriving through channels you didn't expect. Not because you suddenly got lucky, but because the unseen support around you is becoming coordinated. When a mission is active, heaven positions its agents. It arranges intersections. It redirects delays. It closes doors that would drain you. It opens paths that align you. Some people in your life will fall away without drama. Not because you attacked them, because the frequency no longer matches. Certain relationships survive only when you stay small, confused, compromised, or hungry for approval. As you rise into clarity, those dynamics cannot hold. People will distance themselves and call it their choice, and it will be. Others will appear with startling alignment, as if life is placing the right faces in front of you at the right times. And you'll recognize it. Not desperation, not chasing, but synchronicity. The feeling of being guided without being forced. But there is an even deeper effect. Your presence begins to wake people up. Not by preaching, not by trying to fix them, just by being. When your integrity is real, it radiates. People feel it, even if they don't have language for it. They leave a conversation with you and suddenly they want to be braver. They decide to try again. They choose a cleaner path. They stop lying to themselves. They stop settling. They remember who they could be. You become a catalyst without trying. That's what happens when someone carries a frequency that darkness cannot bend. It gives other people permission to return to themselves. You are not meant to fight demons in public. Your assignment is simpler and far more disruptive to hell's agenda. Live as who you truly are, openly, without shrinking. Be incorruptible in ordinary decisions. Be compassionate without becoming a doormat. Be strong without becoming cruel. Let people watch you choose what's right when what's easy is available. Let them see you refuse revenge when revenge would be applauded. Let them witness you maintain dignity under pressure. That visible integrity anchors something in the collective human field. It spreads like fire, not the fire that destroys, but the fire that purifies. And you are not alone in this. There is a wider operation unfolding across the planet, involving thousands of souls carrying similar assignments, placed in different regions, different cultures, different industries, different families, different battlefields. Not all will recognize it at the same time. Not all will awaken with the same speed. But the activation is coordinated. The objective is not domination. It is stabilization. Humanity is standing at a crossroads between higher consciousness and old patterns, between cooperation and division, between courage and fear. Darkness invests heavily in fear, because fear makes people controllable. Darkness invests in division, because divided people don't organize. Darkness invests in distrust, because when people cannot trust each other, they cannot build anything lasting. Integrity destroys that plan. Because when enough people choose truth over convenience, corruption loses its glamour. When enough people refuse to trade their values for comfort, manipulation loses its leverage. When enough people demonstrate that strength can exist without cruelty, the mythology of "you have to be ruthless to win" collapses. When enough people break cycles of revenge, the machine of suffering runs out of fuel. That is why he knelt. Not because you are famous, not because you are perfect, not because you never struggle. He knelt because you represent a kind of human he cannot control. Someone who can suffer without selling their soul. Someone who can be offered the world and still say no. Someone who can be hurt and refuse to become a weapon. That combination is catastrophic to hell's long-term strategy because it doesn't just resist darkness, it neutralizes it. So now listen carefully. Your integrity is not just a trait, it is not a mood. It is not something you only do when life is easy. It is a signature. It is what you carried into this world. And when you demonstrated it so consistently that the enemy was forced into public recognition, you triggered a divine protocol. You moved from being tested to being activated, from being hidden to being supported, from surviving to serving. This does not mean you will never face hardship. It means your hardship will no longer be pointless. It means your obstacles will shape you into a clearer instrument. It means resources will begin to align with your purpose because the mission cannot be fulfilled if you are crushed under needless burdens. It means what drains you will be removed, what strengthens you will be reinforced, and what you need will appear at the right time. Not always in the way you expect, but in the way that moves you forward. If you feel deep down that something has shifted in recent days, you're not imagining it. If you feel like you've crossed a line you can't uncross, like the old compromises no longer fit, like your spirit is demanding a cleaner life, a truer life, that's activation. If you've been noticing unusual timing, sudden clarity, intense convictions, and a growing refusal to betray yourself, that's your essence rising to the surface. So here's what I want you to do. Type 777 in the comments if you can sense the change. If you know you've been tested, and you're ready to understand why the darkness had to acknowledge you. Write 777 if you're choosing the hard road because it's holy, because it's true, because you'd rather be whole than comfortable. And if you're here for this kind of revelation, subscribe and turn on notifications, because what comes next is not entertainment. It's instruction. It's remembrance. It's the map for how to walk as an incorruptible soul in a world that profits from compromise. And share this with someone you know carries that same rare fire, the kind that refuses to be bought. These souls need to find each other. They need to strengthen each other. Not for ego, not for superiority, but because a network of integrity changes the atmosphere of an entire community. It changes families. It changes workplaces. It changes cities. It changes the future quietly, from the inside out. Before you go, choose the next step that aligns with your calling. Follow the path that builds your inner authority instead of feeding your temporary comfort. Keep choosing what's true when no one is watching. Keep refusing the shortcuts that cost you your soul. Keep breaking cycles. Keep your compassion clean. Keep your strength gentle and your gentleness strong. Because now you know, your life isn't small. Your choices are not invisible. And the day the devil knelt was not the end of your story. It was the moment heaven marked you and said, "Activate."